Record. So today we are looking at program management chapter. And there's, if you'll remember from last week, there were a bunch of little fiddly assignments that we put off for this week. So I'm going to give you a demonstration on how to do those fiddly assignments, give you an example for each part of it. And we're recording today, so you'll be able to look at those later if for some reason you can't take notes during the fiddly bits. And for those of you that had requested last week, I do have another practice exam. We will be doing that during study hall today. If you're interested, stay on and we can do the practice exam together. Okay, so I'm gonna just jump into it and we'll get started on program management. Let me share the screen because for some reason I thought it would automatically share, and that's a silly thought. It doesn't actually work that way. Okay. Get this and get the chat. So if anybody has a question or if anybody answers a question, I can see what they wrote. Wonderful. So last week, hopefully you read the families chapter. We didn't get a lot into the families chapter at all last week because we focused on the practice exam and the writing assignments. So you really do need to make sure you read that chapter. And I will be giving you a link to a previous short video I have on the family chapter. I'll put it in the Facebook group if you're interested in looking at that. But today we're going to jump straight into program management. And program management is interesting because it kind of brings together all the stuff we learned about choosing objectives for lessons. So remember all those 9 lessons we did? We were looking on Little Texans Big Futures or CDC guidelines to pick an objective that's appropriate for your children. So this chapter will kind of tie into it and talk about assessment. Can anybody tell me, either out loud or in chat, when you hear the word assessment, what do you think that might mean? Layla said a test. Okay. Does anybody else have an opinion on or a thought of what links up in your head when you hear the word assessment? And a test is an assessment, Layla, spot on.
Like an evaluation?
Okay, an evaluation. So like, does anybody have a yearly evaluation at your center where your director sits down with you and talks about how you've done at your job? No, that's a thing at some centers. So that's an assessment. Somebody said self-evaluation. Let me go up and see who said that. Angelica, self-evaluation is an assessment. You're doing it on yourself, right? And when you're doing a self-evaluation, maybe you're like, okay, what's my blood pressure right now? How am I feeling about this? How am I, you could do self-evaluations for almost anything, right? What's my body fat percentage today? How am I feeling in my religious and spiritual need, makeup today? When you think of assessment for children in your classroom, what comes to mind? Do you usually give tests to infants and toddlers?
No, in my center, that's what we use the milestone checklist for. We kind of assess them that way and go over what they can do, what they need to work on, what they can't do. So that way we have it on paper and we can discuss it with the parents. Okay.
Thank you. So yeah, some of you may remember from school, you had those state assessments. Your school would have a special assessment where they'd have to like pull you into the hallway and sit you at a little desk and ask you specific questions and fill out a form. It's much less formal for our age groups. And I think that's lovely because we can focus more on what the child does every day rather than let's pull them into a weird environment and ask them questions. So to start off our day, and this is not a completely throwaway activity, okay? I want you to, if you put down a professional goal in the chat, I want you to write that down somewhere because you will need it next class. So let's think about 1 or 2 professional or personal goals that you'd like to share with the group. Let's see, I don't know if I can start with that or not. Personal goal. Oh, I have a personal goal. My personal goal is to be more patient and compassionate with my family. That's my goal. So think about a personal or professional goal that you have, 1 or 2 of them, and put them in the chat, please. All right, our first one is being a good businesswoman. Wonderful, thank you. I expect everybody to put down at least 1 goal into the chat. The next one is being more mindful and pay attention to details. Yep, some of us are more big picture people and some of us are more detail people, and it's hard for us to switch back and forth. I totally get that. Cleaning up the entire house and keeping it clean. That would be a big goal for me. I applaud you for even going there. To live in the moment and not worry about what's going to happen tomorrow. Lovely. To go to college. Super. And you don't have to put what you're planning to do in college, but if you want to, you can put it down. It'd be interesting. Next one, stop stressing over little things. Be good for your blood pressure. Enjoy life. Hard work pays off. Wonderful. The next one, to be less awkwardly shy at times and to finish college. Wonderful. Being more organized. Great. Go to college, become a teacher. Wonderful. Spend more time with family. Great. Ooh, it's moving fast now. I need to pull it down so I can keep seeing what's going on. Be more helpful and be there more for my family. Great. To believe in myself a lot more. Wonderful. Take one day at a time and don't stress over what I can't change. Having more physical activity. To be a good role model for my son to finish my psychology degree. Okay, so we have a teacher and we have a psychologist in our ranks. Next is, that's what I'm working on now, establishing a new business. Great. Is that everybody? Anybody else have one to put down? For those of you that chose professional goals, make a note of what you chose. Because when you do your, when we do some finalizing paperwork next week, it is going to ask you to think up a couple of goals. And you might have one already ready to go. And that's great. Thank you for sharing, everybody. We appreciate it. You may need to keep your goal in mind because we are going to revisit it in a few slides and think about what your next step might be to get there. All right, let's go to the next slide. We're doing program management today. We're going to talk about how to observe, to collect information, to make decisions. Use observations to motivate, to drive, to steer your lesson planning. All right. So it starts out for figuring out, why do we even need to assess what's going on? So assessment supports learning and development. Assessment can screen children for special needs. When you hear the word screen, you screen something. What does that mean? What comes to mind when you hear the word screen?
To observe.
Okay. And Amber said copy. I'm going to give you a different kind of, I guess, lens on what that word could mean for assessment. And somebody else said also look over. Has anybody ever played in the sandbox with your kids?
Yes.
Sandbox players? Has anybody ever played personally in sand? If you haven't, we need to take you on a field trip and we need to go to the beach. Okay, if you've ever personally played with sand, have you ever played with something that looks like a colander or something that has holes in it where you scoop up some sand and you go like this and the sand falls through? Okay, when the sand falls through, what's usually in here? What kinds of things might you find in here?
Rocks.
Rocks, shells, toys. This is what I want you to think of when you hear the word screen, okay? So you're dipping your tool down into a group of people and you're going like this and people are falling through, and the ones that are left on top that are too big to fall through, they're the ones that the screen has caught. The screen has said, whoops, we need to take a closer look at this. So let's say you are screening for a developmental delay. Okay, so your screener, you're scooping up all the kids in your class and you're testing and seeing different things. So maybe you're checking to see motor development. Can they all alternate their feet walking down the stairs? Let's screen and find out. So we go to the stairs and we watch them all walk down. The ones that are having difficulty, the screen has caught. And we're going to look at them more closely. So everybody that said to look over more closely, I think that's appropriate. But when you think screen, you're thinking of catching everybody, catching a big bucket of sand and shaking it and seeing which people don't easily pass the screen. Which ones get caught? Which ones do we have to look at closer? I hope that makes sense. I really enjoyed playing in the sand as a child, and that was super interesting for me to see what would be caught in a screen. Next, assessment can be used to evaluate how good your program is. So let's say you have a program where you're teaching children how to do a forward roll. And that maybe you're teaching at a gymnastics school, okay? And the assessment at like week 6 of your gymnastics school is to see, okay, week 6, if you're a good school, 90% of your kids should be able to do a forward roll. So you do the assessment and 95% of your kids can do a forward roll. So does that mean you have a good program? Is it effective? Because it's more, right? Let's say you are trying to evaluate your program effectiveness and 90% is needed to be effective and only 70% of your kids could do the forward roll. Is your program effective? No, because you didn't get there, right? Something's wrong with the program. So if your program says that all of your kids are going to be potty trained, and I don't particularly care for the words potty trained, but y'all know what I mean when I say that. If your program says all your kids are going to be potty trained by 18 months old, okay? And when you evaluate the kids at 18 months old, if they are not potty trained, is your program effective? Is it doing what it says it does? No. Okay, moving on. To monitor trends and needs. So let's say, what's a trend or a need? Maybe you have a trend of children pushing in your classroom, okay? So maybe you do some sort of social emotional assessment, see how children are getting along, and you notice a lot of children are pushing. So maybe that's a trend or a need for you to address in your program. The next one, it says to assess children's achievement and hold programs accountable. That's the same thing as program effectiveness. And then the next is to advance knowledge of child development. So let's go back to considering your program has the goal of having all your children trained by 18 months. And not all your kids are potty trained by 18 months. Do you think maybe you should talk to your director and say, I don't know if this is developmentally appropriate. Most of these kids aren't potty trained. So it could make it where you learn more about how your kids are developing in particular. If any of the stuff I'm saying raises some sort of question or flag for you, please put it in the chat so we can revisit it. I don't want to be intentionally vague on any of this. All right, did everybody bring their assessment with them today? Remember, we had discussed last time that you would have that assessment tool that you have filled out. Did everybody bring it with you today? Okay. Lydia, you look like you're having some fun there. So you have that. Does anybody have something different than the CDC milestones? I know most of you are going to have the CDC milestones. Does anybody have something different for your assessment tool that you use? And give a second. Did anybody have anything completely different from the CDC milestones chart that you use in your classroom? Heather, Gloria, don't worry. This is going to be recorded. So if you've forgotten, we'll still talk about it with the people who have it, and you'll be able to do it this week. All right, we're going to move forward because I don't think people have anything different with them. And it looks like some of you may have forgotten that part. It's okay. We still got time. ELAP, that's a new one. All right, thank you, Lydia. So your ELAP, what kinds of information is it looking for?
It looks for goes for like language, cognitive, self-help, behavior, gross motor, and we just, I don't know if you can see it, we just go by their age. Like it says their age, and then it tells us what they should be able to be doing at that age, and then we just mark it as a yes for right now or a no, because we do one for beginning, middle, and end of the year.
Oh, that's helpful.
See how they're advancing, or if they're understanding it, and if not, that actually helps me for my individual planning to see what I can do to help them get to that goal.
Great.
But it has all the way up to 36 months.
Okay, so it goes up to your 3-year-olds. And that's very helpful for Lydia, I'm sure, because it's all in one spot. She doesn't have to pull a bunch of different papers. She has to collect it in the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, and the end of the year. I would assume that you have a director or somebody that's coming around and reminding everybody that, hey, we're at the middle of the year. Remember to do your assessment for all your kiddos to see where they are.
Yeah, we just finished our middle of the year assessments.
Very cool. How many weeks did you have to get everybody done?
I'm not too sure on that because I'm not the one that actually does it. My lead teacher does, but I just help her. Like, she'll do it and she'll ask me, "Have you seen this child do this?" And I'm like, "Yes" or "No," or "We need to work on it." And then she fills it out in a scoring system, and then it sends to the director, and director prints them out and sends it to us to put into their profile, so we can compare from beginning, middle, and then the end of the year if we meet that goal.
Do you share it with families each time you do it too, or no?
No, we shared doing a parent teacher conference or and then we ask them or we tell them that they met their goal that their parents set for them, and then we'll also let them know, like, oh, your child has done this week, so far they have done this. Like, we don't show them the actual book, we just kind of like
Pull the
summarize
highlights
for them.
Okay, great. Because it's a lot of information. It might overwhelm a family. I totally get that. All right. Thank you very much, Miss Lydia. All right. So we're going to talk about some different kinds of observations that you can do. So the one that Lydia showed us was observations where it's just based off of what the teachers have seen each child do. They don't necessarily make a note when they see it happen. They just, think back, has that kid done that? Yes or no? There's some other ways to do assessment where you are actually documenting over time what you see. So let's talk about those. We're going to talk about anecdotes. We're going to talk about a diary or a journal. And we're going to talk about event samples and what those are good for. So here is an anecdote. It happened on June 3rd. Laura, who is 20 months old, is using her whole hand to hold the chunky paintbrush. She is controlling the brush to paint lines on paper taped to the table. So off the top of your head, what kinds of information is being included in here? You can put it in the chat if you don't want to call out. What kinds of information is included in here? Okay, it's talking specifically about a fine motor skill. Thank you. What kinds of information would be helpful for the teacher to know looking back at this? Her age. Okay, great. So we have what kind of skill, her age.
She's able to make lines.
Okay.
On paper.
Lines, so it's telling exactly what she's doing. What else do we see on here? The date. Why might the date be important?
So that we know when she accomplished the task.
So if you're a teacher that's doing anecdotal notes, do you just have one note?
No.
I mean, this is something you're doing all the time. So if you have like 50 notes that you're going through, you need to be able to put them in order. So like if you took a note for Laura, 2 notes during the week, and one note said she's using her whole hand, and the next note said she is using this kind of grip, pincer grip, you want to know which happened first. That would be important. The age is important because why?
To see if she's on track.
Okay, right. So a lot of our developmental milestones are by age, right? So if we know that the child is 20 months, we can pull up either CDC or we can pull up Little Texans Big Futures, or if you're Lydia, you can pull up that assessment that in specific that her center uses. Look at 20 months and say, okay, Lada's right here, 20 months. What is their fine motor skill supposed to look like at 20 months? Because you want to know, is she right on target? Is she below? Is she above? That's good to know, right? I'm wondering Did the teacher put any opinions in this anecdote? Does anybody know what an opinion is? I'm sure you do. We hear a lot of opinions on the news and from everybody every day, I think. What's the difference between a fact and an opinion?
She's saying what she thinks about the child.
So an opinion would be what they're thinking about, right?
Uh-huh.
So if you love a child, would that influence your opinion?
It shouldn't, but yes.
So okay, let's say it's your child. You love your child. Your opinion of that child is going to be higher. And you're going to say, my little angel is so talented. And so, oh my goodness, those eyes. My little angel is so talented and so loving and the most gorgeous child ever put on this earth. Now, let's say you have a child that pushes your buttons and gives you a bite every once in a while. Are you going to think that child is the most loving, darling, intelligent child ever put on this earth?
No.
That's why we're trying to keep our opinions out of anecdotal notes, okay? Because if you don't like that child, you are going to write things in here that are not helpful. And if you love them, you're going to write things that are not helpful. For example, if you loved Laura, you might say Laura is a talented artist. How is that helpful? When you're looking at developmental milestones, that's not helpful. It doesn't say talented artist anywhere in developmental milestones. And if another teacher was to read it and say Laura is a talented artist, they might say, well, that must mean that Laura is developmentally above average. Can you see how that would influence how somebody reading it would think of Laura? And if you didn't like Laura and said, you know what, Laura, art is not Laura's strong suit. Laura needs to make sure she gets a job doing something else when she grows up. Art is not it for her. Then you might think, oh, Laura is below average with her fine motor skills and creativity. It doesn't tell you where she actually is. So let's look at a video. I am going to pause because I don't want this on the internet recording. I chose that video for you because it would be very easy for somebody to put their opinion of that child or their opinion of what's going on rather than what actually happened. So I'm going to start the anecdote by putting the date in the chat. So you don't need to put the date. And I'm going to put the child's name. I'm going to put the initial for the child's name. And I'm going to put that he's 4 years. Okay. Can somebody please share? Okay. This is the first time you've been asked to write a factual statement in the chat. I understand this. I do not expect everybody to get this correct the first time, okay? If for some reason you make an error, we all are human, we all make errors. There is no judgment here. We may say, oh, that looks more like an opinion. I'm wondering how we could write it as a fact. And that would be the harshest consequence for getting it wrong, okay? Don't be afraid of it. Let's just put what we wrote down as our factual statement in the chat, please. We've got our first two posted. Let's see if we can everybody to put a factual statement. Looks like we have a few more. This is important. I'd like everybody to try. So far, so good, everybody. I don't think everybody's put one down yet, though. Okay. Wonderful. I did not see one judgmental statement in here, one opinion. It seemed that everybody was describing either how he kept the dustpan steady, or he knew what the tools were and was able to state what they were used for. If we were going to talk about his social emotional development, because that's the thing that could have gotten us stuck, right? Because we could have said something inappropriate. We could have said, oh, he had a fit. Well, that's not helpful. We could say that he's starting to gain some control over his emotions, right? Because he started to get really upset, but he was able to keep himself from like going into full tantrum mode. He was able to control himself and walk to the bathroom on his own. So that kind of shows the beginning development of self-control, and you could put something like that. I also heard that he used the word underneath when he was telling the teacher where the cereal was. That's a vocabulary word having to do with math. So you could have gone that route. You could have even said something like the child was resistant to the teacher's request to clean on the table with his hand. Because that could be something you could follow up in during the school year. Is he becoming more receptive to the teacher's request, or is he still getting stuck where he's not able to move forward with those things? Thank you, everybody that contributed a factual statement. I appreciate it. I hope that that was useful for you. I'm going to go back into sharing screen. All right, so that is an example of an anecdote. Get the view so I can see who is on here a little bit. Oh well, okay, we'll work with what we got. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about is a diary or an observation journal. Let's take a look at this example one first and try to figure out what we can learn from the information. Let's start by looking at the dates. The dates are all the same. So this happened on the same day. The teacher was taking notes on the same day. And let's start reading it. 8:20 a.m. DT pushed AR as the class was lining up to wash hands. 8:30, DT pushed KB as the children grouped around the table to see what was for breakfast. 9 o'clock, DT pushed AR as they raced for the tricycle outside. 9:05, DT pinched AR as AR climbed on the tricycle. 9:45, DT cries when AR beats him to the door to go inside. The teacher intervenes by stepping between the children. And 10:30, DT and AR play alongside each other for 15 minutes. Each has a toy dumpster truck in the block area. In the chat, please tell me, or you can say it out loud, what kinds of information can we learn from this journal?
DT wants to be first for everything. He don't like to be beat.
Okay, that's a good observation. DT, so for the first thing, when they raced for the tricycle, right, he was trying to get to it first, and when he
Mhm.
didn't take it well. When they were lining up to wash hands, he pushed. When they grouped around the table, he pushed. And then when they were going inside, he raced for it and he cried when he didn't make it first. So that's a logical interpretation, Deborah. Thank you. Heather says DT does better in a small group of children. Okay. We might assume that based on the 10:30 observation, that they were able to play next to each other for 15 minutes without a problem.
Mhm.
What else could we learn from this? I'll give it a few more seconds. If nobody has an opinion, we'll just go forward with what we got, because we have some good ones so far. All right. Why do
Miss Elliott, is it,
Yes.
I'm sorry, is it that it's just a bunch of,
what, Monica? I got the first part and then you cut out. I couldn't hear the second part. Could you repeat yourself?
oh no, I'm sorry, my computer had just froze when I spoke. Sorry.
Can you repeat yourself?
Is it that there's like nothing positive about the child at all during the diary entry?
Well, it could be. I'd say the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 were not positive, right?
Yeah,
One seems to be positive, but most of them are not.
yeah.
All right, so let's work with what we have. So we have that he likes to be first was one opinion. Another was that he does better in a small group. A third was maybe the teacher is signaling him out. You know, there's a lot of negative stuff here. Another just popped into the chat that says he has a habit of hurting others when he's frustrated. Okay. Why do you think? So let's say this is your classroom. Let's say you've got some, what do you think? Let's say like 20-month-olds. They're like right on the cusp of being a 2-year-old, but they're not quite there yet. Let's say you have this classroom. Why might you be writing down what DT is doing during the day and trying to figure out what's going on with him? Why might you be even bothering to do this?
His behavior.
Okay, so maybe you've noticed, maybe AR's mom came in and talked to you this morning,
Yeah.
right? Because 1, 2, 3, 4 of these things have to do with the AR.
Mhm.
For AR's mom, you're like, that kid is bullying my sweet baby.
Yeah.
So AR's mom came and talked to you and said, you got to figure something out. So you didn't put it together in your head that, okay, well, AR's mom believes that DT is targeting her baby. Let me take some notes and see what's actually going on. Okay. So every time, it starts out in the morning with every time DT does something that she doesn't like, she's writing it down and trying to figure out why. Okay. Do you see why putting down why or what you think the why is might be helpful? So the first thing she said is he pushed when he was lining up. Second thing, he pushed when he was trying to get into a big group, clustering up. The third was having to do with getting there first. And the fourth had to do with getting there first too. And then, so she's got kind of a bunch of stuff going on, right? I think it's lovely that at 10:30, she actually noticed, hey, DT and AR have been having a moment. I'm going to document that too and try to figure out why that good thing happened. So it's not just focusing on good grief, we need to get this kid where he's not biting anymore or pushing or whatever. We need to fix it. It's not just noticing when the child is out of sorts, it's also noticing what motivates this kid, what puts them in a good mood. We need to know both of these things, right? It's not just stop it, no, don't, stop, no, don't. It's like, ooh, you're having trouble here? I know you like this, come with me. Let's go over here and do this lovely thing you like. Let me try to fix a little bit about my day, the way I have set up my day to support you. So you are the teacher of DT. You've taken these notes. What may be a step you could do, a first step? You have these notes, you're like, okay, we've got a bunch of different stuff going on. What is one thing I could do based off these notes to help? I don't think one wrong answer unless you did something that'd get you in trouble with licensing. Okay, Maida said have a one-on-one with him. That could work. It depends on, so we said he's 20 months old. It depends how verbal he is for that one-on-one. If he's really verbal, that might work. Say, oh, hey, been noticing some pushing, some pinching. Tell me about that. What's going on? That could work. Depends how verbal, right? The next one says, try to stay close to DT and work with him throughout the day. So proximity. We've also termed it shadowing, you know, being right there and able to put a hand to, you know, they go in for a bite or they go in for a pinch and then your hand goes down and it's the thing that takes the hit instead of the other child. So
But you have
what
you
else
have
could
to
we do?
pay attention to AR also, because maybe he's making him act like that.
Interesting. Okay. That would be interesting to know. Is AR
Provoking him.
doing something to get DT worked up? So is AR doing these little micro pushes or little microaggressions that are making DT flip out? Possible.
I was thinking
Can do. What, Lydia?
I was thinking with the because you know how they say they pushed DT pushed KB to get around the table to see what's for breakfast. Maybe you can announce like, oh, we're having this for breakfast, so they're kind of having an idea in mind instead of rushing to see what is on the table. And then the same thing with the tricycle. Try to see if you can talk to the director and get more than one, because it seems like for us, we have one sink in the classroom, but in our bathroom right there we have a little like it's a big sink, but it has like 3
Taps.
yeah, to wash your hands. So we don't really have a fuss with that. So maybe they can talk to their director. I'm not saying build one, but you know, try to see
Dude, if your center's got the money, go for it.
yeah, if they can get more than one, if you still continue to have this problem, not only with this class, but let's say you get another class in and you see a pattern, you know, maybe, I don't know. Because then at the end, it shows that they play alongside each other, but they had the same toy dumpster truck. So they weren't fighting over it. And in previous time, they were fighting over that one specific thing. I don't know.
I think that's a good point to make. So we all know that toddlers need multiples of the good stuff, the popular stuff. Sharing is not something that's built into toddler DNA, and you shouldn't expect it. So good point. If we know that there's only one tricycle and we can't do anything about it, right? So let's just say there's nothing we can do about it. The director says, I am only buying that one tricycle, no other riding toys, figure it out. Then I might put that tricycle away and just say, okay, we can't use that. Let's see what other interesting stuff we could do that we have multiples of. I also like the idea of changing your transitions. So somebody mentioned just announcing what's for breakfast instead of doing a little show and tell at a small table where all your 12 kids are trying to shove each other to the side to see what's going on. Also a transition for lining up to wash hands could be a thing. So maybe we don't send all 12 kids to the one sink at the same time. Maybe we send a couple at a time.
Yes, one sink.
And then maybe working on your transition for coming back inside. When the teacher was present, the teacher was able to stop any behavior from happening. So maybe one teacher stays by the door when it's time to come in and is just ready, you know, with a song or something over there to distract and get them on the same page. Thank you, everybody, for your participation in that. It was very helpful. So journals are really good when you're trying to figure out why a behavior is happening in your classroom and the little things that happen before it or after it that may have something to do with it. So you can try to fix the problem. If you don't really know what's going on, you're just randomly throwing pasta at a wall to see what'll work. It's better to be strategic and not waste your energy. All right, this is our last example of a way to collect data. Let's look at it. It's called an event sample. You don't need to know particularly what an event sample is, but just know kind of how to do it and what it could be used for. Let's look at this one. It happened on June 3rd. The time that it happened was 30 minutes between 11:15 and 11:45. And the teacher is recording the number of times each child got off their cot. All right, so let's look at this. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 children in the class. And the teacher is writing down how many times each of these children got off their cot during that 30 minutes. And everybody knows how to do a tally mark, right? Every time something happened, you just put the tally mark. The little line through the 4 means that that's a group of 5. It just makes it easier to count 5, 10, 15. So let's look at this. What does this information tell you? Who's our biggest offender?
Lily.
That Lily. That Lily, she's just not feeling being on the cot. All right. And who's our least?
Eva.
Ava. Ava stayed on her cot. Yay, Ava. We love Ava today. She's our favorite right now. All right. So why would this be good information for a teacher to have?
To know who does better, like lying down, and who needs like help.
Okay, so if you
Having them stay.
better, what was that, Deborah?
To know like who you be more close to help them, stay on their cots.
Okay, so you know who to stand closer to. What else might it influence knowing this?
I know in my centers, something like this may influence how or when a child gets moved to another room. So if they're like outgrowing that nap time, maybe it's time for them to move up into another room.
Okay. So you're thinking maybe they just don't need to nap and they've outgrown the need to nap. Okay, cool. Anything else knowing this information might influence about your classroom?
Probably where they're positioned.
Okay.
Because you can have some that are positioned right next to toys. Well, they're going to be getting off because the toys are right there versus over there on another side where there's no toys. It's just.
So you're putting Ava in the most exciting part of the classroom? Is that what I'm hearing? So like maybe next to the small toys area, Ava gets to lay there?
I thought Ava was the one that doesn't get off the
That's
mat.
right. So you want to put her somewhere where, if she won't be tempted as much. You want to put the kids that are hopping all over the place in more boring, less stimulating areas, maybe?
Yeah, because we had that issue with one girl, but we moved her to, it was too bright in one area for her, so she kept getting off. So we moved her to the other side where the shades come down, and she sleeps better, or not
Wonderful.
better, I should say. So maybe the positioning of the child.
Okay, so I have self-confessed that I stink at nap time. It's like the whack-a-mole game. Does anybody remember that? Where you hit one little mole and another one pops up on the other side of the game space?
Mm-hmm.
This could honestly be something that I would have done. Like, okay, how many times is each of these kids getting up? I'm going to figure out a new way to lay out the cots. So I can put all my people the most right next to each other. I'm going to sit right in the middle of them. And I'm going to have a hand patting each and maybe my foot rocking the third cot.
I know sometimes in some of our classrooms, if a child refuses to nap, we work on them on staying on their mats and finding a quiet way to entertain themselves so they at least don't disturb the other children that are napping.
Mm-hmm. All good things. Just, knowing this information could be helpful to make decisions. So that's why you do an event sample. So you could do an event sample for maybe your director comes in and says to you, why do your children never play in the home area? And you think to yourself, my kids are in the home area all the time. What are you talking about? You could do an event sample during maybe 15 minutes or 20 minutes during free choice time, and just do little tallies each time you see a kid go in the home area to play. And then you could show your director, see, 15 minutes. This many kids were in the home area. It's totally being used. Or you might do that 15 minutes and say, oh, nobody did go in the home area. I had no idea. I need to make my home area more exciting. So that's how it could be useful in that way. All right. Think about, for those of you that chose professional goals, or, even if you had a personal goal, why is making a goal useful?
If you have a goal set, you'll know when you accomplish it.
Okay, you'll know when you get there. That's good. Definitely. Do we have any additional opinions? Why should we even bother setting goals? What purpose do they serve for us? Motivation. Okay.
It betters ourselves, and it feels
Say again,
good
Lydia.
to accomplish it.
Say again, Lydia. I'm sorry. I heard.
It betters yourself, and it feels really good when you accomplish a goal.
Okay. I also see that somebody put, Amber put professional growth. All right. So do we have goals for the children in our, oh, here we go. Myra put one too. They help us have a sense of purpose. Alexa said to create room for growth and development. Super. Thank you. Do we set goals for the children in our class? Yes, I'm seeing Lydia shake her head. Yes. Deborah, yes, as well. Myra, yes.
No, right. Look, right.
So an educational goal for your
Right.
classroom. Can
Right.
anybody give an example of what educational goal in your classroom is for your kids? What's a goal for them that you have for them before they leave your classroom? What do you want them to be able to do?
In my classroom with the infants, we want them to be able to sit on their own before they go into the next room, along with being able to eat, mobile, There's actually a long list.
Walk as well.
For our classroom, we have like an infant 1 and an infant 2, so they're split up. So walking isn't necessarily a requirement for them to move up into the next room, but being mobile is like at least crawling
Hold on.
and moving.
Amy says that hers is to be able to walk. Does anybody have Lydia, I'm gonna mute you real quick. The baby is having a moment. Does anybody have, oh, here we go. Liz said to be able to use pull-ups or underwear to go up to the next classroom. I'm seeing that these 3 are very focused on gross motor. And that's fine. Our age group, gross motor and fine motor, are just as big a deal as anything else, even more so. Does anybody else want to contribute one of the educational goals you have for your classroom?
For my topic class, it's their ABCs without without song. Like I'm able to write it and they're able to guess it or tell me what it is. And I have 2 that actually are like really good at it, and I have others that kind of struggle with like I's, J's, like they'll tell me what it is, but their numbers and their the numbers in Spanish and English, they kind of got
say
it.
them out loud.
Yes, and I'm like, oh my God, when we sing it in the morning, I'm like, yes. And then, but I kind of build on that goal throughout the whole entire like year.
Okay, and I heard letter recognition as well there. Juliet, to roll over. Liz said colors as well. Okay, super. Thank you all for contributing. Let's go on to our next one. Does everybody want a 5-minute break? It is 10:13. Is now a good time? Recaffeinate, go potty? All right, so it's 10:13. We'll come back at 10:20. Recording. I will start recording again. We'll get into examples of things to get done so that you all feel confident in getting the writing assignments accomplished well. So I've got my binder. I've got something to take notes with. I'm opening it up to the class day, April 2nd, because that's the day we are on. Give everybody a moment to find your binder. If you left it out in the car, now's your time to run and get it. Chop, chop. Okay, I'm going to actually look on the March 26th because we did make some interesting notes on March 26th last time. So you should have completed the writing about family communication. You should have finished writing about your family surveys. Those were required for this week. You also had a choice whether or not you wanted to work on your writing about your weekly plan, the CS1C. Last week, that was a choice. This week, it's no longer a choice. It's got to happen. We have the example in the Facebook group. I posted the example for CS1C. So if you're somebody that said, I put that off, I put the example on our Facebook group. You can pull it from there. The last thing for March 26th are the last 3 bullet points talking about the Family Resource Guide, Child Care Center regulation, and child care associations. So those last 3 we're going to talk through in a minute and do some examples so you feel confident completing those. We're also going to talk about CSVA, which is a 5, Roman numerals, CSVA, writing about the observation tool or form. So we'll talk about that as well. If we have time, we will get into this professional philosophy statement. That's the thing that may get pushed back this week. We shall see. Okay. All right, shall we jump in? Are there any questions before we dive in? Okay. So I'm going to pull up one of these documents. I believe I'm going to start with the Family Resource Guide. So why don't you, I'm going to pull it up so you can see what it looks like, so you can look in your binder to find it. This is what it looks like. So if you could please locate that in your binder, that would be useful. I think for this that I will go through and do one of these with you. So like the first thing asked for 2, I'll do 1 with you. So on all the boxes that have more than 1, I will do 1 and you are going to do the other one on your own time. But I want you to know how to do it. Has anybody had difficulty locating this document? Myra, you already did this?
Yes, ma'am.
Good for you. Then this is just going to be old hat for you, and you can take a mental break while we go through it.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to stop the share for this, and we're going to pull up the internet, because the internet is our friend for this resource fair. And we are going to start looking this stuff up so you can see how to look it up and what goes into it. All right. So let me do a new share and we'll pull up Google, our good friend Google. And the first thing we're looking for is the name and contact information of a local agency that provides family counseling. All right, so I'm going to type in Google San Antonio family counseling. And I'm going to focus personally on the ones I know that are very inexpensive. And I'm sure there's a lot of good ones on here, but maybe I'm going to type in free family counseling and see what comes up. All right. I think I'm going to pick the Family Life Center at St. Mary's. Okay, so I'm going to go there, the website. And I'm going to type into my resource collection here, Family Life Center at St. Mary's. Okay, I'm closing the chat right now, so I've got all sorts of screens popping up and I just can't watch it. If you have a question, please make a noise so I know to help you out, please. All right, so I've typed in Family Life Center at St. Mary's, and I'm going to put this sample document that I'm typing in right now, I'm going to post that to Facebook. So if you're somebody that likes to type instead of handwriting things, you can just pull it up and handwrite your bit, and type your bit. All right, so I need their contact information. St. Mary's does training for people that are going to be psychologists and counselors. So that's why this is a less expensive program for people, because it's students that are being supervised by a professor. And this is the kind of stuff they do: low-cost counseling, family and marriage, child, mental health, couples, psychotherapy, and play therapy. And they have adult counseling too. So if anybody would like to look into that, you can. I'm going down. They usually have the contact information at the bottom of these websites and the addresses. Here we go. Copy.
I can't see that part. It's all oh, there it goes. Never mind.
I'm just going back and forth trying to get the contact information and transfer it. You probably are not going to be able to see everything as I'm doing it. I'll make sure to go to the Word document when I'm done so you can just see what it looks like. Oops. I'm doing a lot of copying and pasting. Or at least I'm attempting to. And it also asks, so it asks for the phone number and the website. So I'm going to put the website on there too. Great. Okay. Right now, I think it was Lydia that asked me. Right now, Lydia, can you see the Word document with the information on it?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Super. Okay, and don't try to write it all in now. Like I said, I am going to put it on Facebook so you can see what I typed in. So don't worry about that. I just want you to understand how it works. Okay, so your job is to look up a second one that does family counseling and get their contact information. Can anybody give me an idea of why you might want to have resources like this available in your classroom? And remember, I can't see the chat right now, so you're going to have to actually tell me.
For families, maybe they don't want to discuss it out loud to you, but they can just glance and see it, and they'll just, like, you know, privately do it themselves.
Yeah. So, and sometimes you'll have a family that makes a good connection with you and they'll tell you, oh my goodness, we had a death in the family, or me and my husband are going through a rough patch, or my mother-in-law is moving in with us and I'm not sure if I can handle it, whatever it is, right? And you can say, oh, I know a place, you know, university in town or a center in town that does family counseling. Would you be interested in that resource? And if they're like, oh, I can't afford it. Well, I know a place that does free counseling. Would you like the resource? And you can offer it. This is not for you to walk up to a family and say, you know what? Y'all need some help and hand it to them. That won't go over well. Don't do that. All right. The next one I have mixed feelings about because the cost is prohibitive for a translation, an official translation service. It's quite expensive, but it does require it, so we're going to do it. So I'm going to look up a translation service for San Antonio. It asks for two different kinds. It asks for one for just any language other than English, and the second one is for ASL, American Sign Language. So I'm going to do the one for home language other than English. We're going to go to the web again and see if I can do a new share so you can see the website. Okay, and I'm going to Google. San Antonio translation service. Most of these are probably going to be price prohibitive to you. The reason we're doing this one is just to meet the requirement of CDA. Kind of just wanted to see if there is one just for Here's one that does, well, let's see what they do. San Antonio Interpreter Service. See if they do other languages other than English. La 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 la. Well, they're in a lot of places. It's not just here. Menu, maybe it'll say what languages, services. Maybe if I make it whole screen, I'll get more information. List of languages. Let's see what we've got. Yep, I'd say that's more than English, wouldn't you? So we can put this one down. I think I saw an about or a contact us thing at the bottom. That should give us the information. So I know we need the website, so I'm going to copy that and put it in the resource collection. It needs the website, it needs the telephone number, and it needs the name of it. The name of it is Lighthouse Translations. All right, and I need the telephone number, so let me look around for that. Oh, here we go. They have a toll-free number. So I'm going to copy. And paste the toll-free number in here. Okay. Now, I have stated that, and I'm going to pull the chat up because I do want you all to participate in this bit. I've said that more than likely you're not going to be able to hire a professional interpreter if you need somebody to translate for a parent, right? It's cost prohibitive. However, let's say you're at your center and you have a family move into the area, and the person that drops off the child speaks, somebody pick a language other than Spanish, because that's pretty popular right now. German. All right, you have a family that speaks German. What could you do so that you could talk to that family? What resources could you use? And feel free to just toss the spaghetti at the wall at this one. What resources do you think you might be able to use to get it, either an interpreter or to be where you can just talk to this family?
Google Translate, you can use it on your phone.
Okay, so you could use some sort of translate app. They have mixed results, right? But it's better than nothing, right? You could do Google Translate. What else could you do? You really want to talk to this family. You need to find somebody that can interpret for you. Where might you look? Because you're wanting free here.
You could try using like pictures to refer things.
Okay, so you could try doing pictures. You could try doing the online translation app. Other ideas? An interpreter. Good idea, but where would you find a free interpreter, Stefania?
Maybe a family member who can speak English.
Okay, so maybe they have a kid in middle school or a kid in high school. I bet they pick up on the English pretty quick. If they don't have a family member that speaks, who else could you try?
A fellow employee.
Okay, maybe somebody, a coworker speaks some German or has a grandmother that speaks German or whatever that they could call up and put on the phone. Okay. Some other ideas for you. Okay, I see that somebody put signs there as well. If you know the language, you could go and look online for German clubs. So maybe a high school or a university or a college would have a German club, and you could ask them to call in and provide translation for you. Sometimes if the community is big that they're moving into, maybe there's a church that's specific for that language. So maybe there's some sort of German church in San Antonio that you could reach out to and say, hey, could somebody come and translate for us? Yeah, all things that you could do that are free that might be more doable for you rather than hiring a professional service, which would probably cost a significant amount of money. All right, let's move on to the next thing. The name, contact information, and brief description of at least 2 agencies in our community that provide resources and services for children with disabilities. So I'm going to go back to Google, our friend Google. And we're going to again type in San Antonio. Services for children with disabilities. Okay, and it looks like we've got some stuff here, don't we? Just off the top of the list. So you could pick any of these. Developmental disabilities, CAP for Kids, Brighton Center, the Arc of San Antonio, Ready Kid SA. I think I'm gonna go with that one just for fun. All right, so I'm going to go and type Ready Kid SA into my resource collection because I need to know the agency name, Ready Kid SA. I need to know their contact information, so I'll look for that next. Contact information is 211. Okay, good to know. Call 211, and it also asks for the website, so I'm going to do that. Copy and paste the website. And now it asks for a brief description. That's different. We haven't been doing that. So let's see. I need to close the chat so I can see properly what's going on. And we have ages 0 to 3, so maybe I should look there first. They've got some developmental milestones here. That's interesting. That doesn't tell us what we need to know about it, though. Let's see. Family resources, maybe. Oh, about. In the upper right corner, I see an about button. I'm going to click on that because that should tell us about it. All right, it's a coalition of organizations. Provides parents and caregivers with tools and resources to better support their families. Okay, I think I'll go with this description. I'm just going to copy it and paste it into Word. And I'm going to put quotes around it because I did just steal it right from the website. So we need to show we didn't come up with that on our own. Let me show you what my page is looking like so far. So that's what I put down for it. Okay. And fun fact, when you're doing the second one, you can actually go to Ready Kids Essay. Let me show you. And they actually have a list of programs on here too. So if we type in family resources, and it says children with special needs, I'm gonna click on that. And look, it says local organizations. So it has Any Baby Can, ARC of San Antonio, Autism Community Network, Autism Treatment Center, Disability SA, Respite Care of San Antonio. So it's got a bunch of options for you on Ready Kid SA for you to use for your second. And again, we're not learning these resources so we can tell a parent, hey, I think your kid needs this. It's when the parent, shares with you, oh, my child's been diagnosed with autism. You could say, oh, I know, I have the link to Ready Kids SA if you'd like that. All right, let's look at what the next one is. The next thing we are looking for is, drum roll, bum, 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 bum. All right, we need a list of at least 3 websites. That means you can do 3, you can do 4. We need a brief description of the website. We need to have a current article for each website. Let's see. The website has to contain articles that help families understand development and learning for their children. I think 3 to 5-year-olds is incorrect. Let me double check and see. Maybe it says infant toddlers on ours. Let me double check. Yeah, it says infants and toddlers. That's incorrect. I apologize. Okay. Super. It says a list of 3 or more websites, brief descriptions of each that provide current information to help families understand how their children development and learn. Include 1 current article for each website. They must contain articles that help. So this one doesn't have to be in here. Must contain articles that help families understand development and learning of infants and toddlers. Oh yeah, it does have to be in there. I just didn't get that far reading it. And one of them has to relate to child guidance. So we're going to get on the internet and we're going to try to find some good quality websites that have to do with infants and toddlers and helping families figure out how they work. So let me do the new share, pull up Google again. All right, infant, so child development articles and see what comes up, just for funsies. All right, NAEYC, that should be a good one. So I'm going to go there. Social and emotional development. Yep. These have infants and toddlers in the picture, so I'm feeling confident. All right. So I need to get the website name. I'm wondering if there's a more generalized one I can pull up. This one has Arabic, and I think that's Mandarin as well. I cannot read those. Developmentally appropriate practice, maybe. Oh, it does say we need to have one for child guidance, so let's make that the one we do together. Let me look for child guidance. Here we go, guidance in challenging behaviors. We'll find one for infants and toddlers in here now. And it needs to be an article, right? So there's an article. Looking for younger kids though. Planning for positive guidance. What do y'all think about that one? It's got pictures of an infant and toddler. I like it. Let's do it. So I'm going to go put in the website name, which is naeyc.org. naeyc.org. I'm going to put that it's the National Association for the Education of Young Children. A brief description of NAEYC. Well, we'll do that after I get this article name. Oh, you know what? I like this better. I'm going to pull this. It shows that it's an article that way. It shows what magazine and what date it came out. So I'm going to move this down, article for child guidance. Paste. All right, and let me see if I can write a little bit about this. The role of co-regulation, building self-regulation skills. I'm going to kind of read through the article and see what it says that would be useful for us to write about it. Okay, so this is an article about co-regulation, how teachers can teach children self-regulation by co-regulating. Or maybe just how to teach children self-regulation, how to teach young children self-regulation. Okay, I'll write that. I think I might make this a darker color just so it stands out. Bold. All right. And I need a description of NAEYC as well. So let me go back into their website and see if I can find an about part of NAEYC. About us, that looks helpful. View about us, yes, please. Okay, I think we can pull that first sentence. Or part of it, because I already wrote what it stands for. And I think I might. Okay. If you have access, easy access to a printer, it would be delightful if you printed out the article and like kept it with this in your binder. If you don't have access to a printer, I think just having the name of the article and just a very brief description of what it is will work. And I think I might put the link for the article here too. I think that'd be useful. Let me go back and get that. I'm going to kind of move it down so they look like they're They're all one thing. Does anybody have a question about how this part works with the website, the brief description of the website, the article, and the website for the article? This is, I think, the most complex part of this, so I want to make sure you all, it makes sense to you. I'm pulling up the chat. Does anybody need additional support on how to do this? I can give you ideas for other websites real quick. I'll go back into Google and pull up a couple, and you can make decisions based on what you want later. And remember, this is being recorded today, so you can go back and look at it to see where those websites were, if you like. So okay. So I'm going to put child development, and I'm going to put infants and toddlers and see what comes up. Yes, you can, Heather. So we have something here from an extension of Missouri, the state of Missouri, that has some stuff in it. Oh, this is one that I think you'd like. 0 to 3. I highly recommend this one. This does have articles in it. They're all for 0 to 3-year-olds and their families. I highly recommend you take a look at this one. It even has videos and stuff in it. Also, this healthychildren.org, very cool. Let me show you what that looks like. It is the American Academy of Pediatrics, and you can see how it has articles here, and you can pick things for babies, things for toddlers, toilet training, nutrition, fitness, sleep, all sorts of good things. So that's a really good website as well, healthychildren.org. I mean, there are options here. You don't have to pick the ones I recommend. Medline Plus might be interesting. I don't know. I'm uncertain why it now says baby development areas, because I feel like I didn't pick that. I'm interested in this extension for Missouri, see what comes up, if it has articles. It has developmental milestones. Not necessarily articles, it's just one long website. Medline Plus. Anyway, you can fool around on it and see what speaks to you. I highly recommend that healthychildren.org and the 0 to 3 though. All right, let's look at the next thing on our document that we need to look at. So you need to have at least 3 altogether. There's space for 4. You could do an extra one if you wish. That will get you through the resource collection 4. Okay, I'm saving it. And this is the example I'm going to post on Facebook for you. All right, now let's look at the next thing. The next thing we shall look at is RC6, so it's RCV1 licensing. So let me show you what that looks like. Let me share the screen. RCV1 number 1. This is what it looks like. So everybody locate this, please. So for this one, you do have to have a printer. If you don't have a printer at home, you need to speak with your director, because I can guarantee your director has access to a printer. They need it for all sorts of things. So for this one, you need the name and contact information of licensing. Childcare licensing. Then it wants you to go into the minimum standards. Has everybody heard the term minimum standards tossed around at work? Minimum standards says we should do this. Minimum standards says we have to do
Yes.
that. Okay. So you are going to actually pull up minimum standards and put your eyes on it. When you pull up minimum standards, it says this is where the printing comes in. So look, you're not going to copy all of minimum standards. Why? Because it's huge. It would make everybody sad if you copied minimum standards. So the part that you have to copy.
I already made a copy of all of the minimal standards, and I have it in a full binder here that I did at the beginning of when our class started. And
so you're set.
And it's all over 200 pages, I think.
Yeah, so you're not going to put all that in your binder, Heather, because your person's going to look at it and run screaming from you.
Okay.
So there are a couple ways you can do it. You can either look at minimum standards and find the page numbers and like hand it to your director and say, these are the page numbers I need. Or you can copy and paste the information from there into this document and just print it here, okay? So you need the sections that describe qualifications for directors, teachers, and assistants. You need the sections that give group size and ratio requirements. And we're going to go into minimum standards together right now and find all this stuff. Okay? So let's do it. Yay, minimum standards. All right, getting into Google again. I am going to type Texas Child Care Licensing, because that's the first bit. We need to know that first. You will notice that DFPS came up first. I don't know if they've migrated their website. I honestly don't know. I'm unsure, so I'm going to go here because I know this is where it lives now. It's HHS texas.gov. Okay, so I'm going to pull this website, copy, because I know we need the website information. So it wants the name and the contact information. So this is part of the contact information. So I'm putting the website and the name of it. Let me look again. Whoops. I don't know what I just clicked on. I'm going backwards. Texas Health and Human Services. I believe so. All right, I'm going with it. Texas Health and Human Services. So I'm going to type Texas Health and Human Services. And I'm thinking it might be good if we had a telephone number for licensing. I wonder if we could find that. I'm going to get rid of chat because I need to be able to see what's going on here. Lots of stuff, y'all. Licensing, childcare administrator, childcare provider. I'm interested what this says. Where's the contact us section, y'all? I'm tempted just to type into Google childcare licensing telephone number. Let's see. Let's choose this daycare credentialing and see if we can find anything here. Oh, those are all the daycares. Let's see. There's an email.
I search it as Texas Health and Human Services State Office Headquarters. And it gave me the state office headquarters and also by city.
Okay, we're almost there. We got regions. I'm uncertain which region we're in. Okay, we're not in Dallas. We're not in the Northwest. We're not in the Upper East. We could be Southeast, maybe Central. Let's look in Central. Is it Bear, Bastrop, Bell, Blanco, Bosco, Burleson? Nope, no Bear. Southeast. Let's see if Bear's in here. Nope. Upper South. Yep, we're Upper South, y'all. Just in case you wanted to know. Doesn't tell us how to contact Upper South. Okay, 1 minute. Office searches. That's their headquarters. We don't want that. You told me how to do it. I'm trying to find it though. List of offices. This is embarrassing, y'all. I usually can find this much quicker. Main headquarters. You know what? Heck with it. We're just trying to Google it. San Antonio. Childcare licensing. See what comes up. Aha. There we go. I'm just copying and pasting. So that is childcare regulation. Great. Super. Paste. And if you get weird spaces in what you paste, you can go back and fix those later because I'm getting weird spaces. All right, so now we need to get into childcare licensing and copy sections about the qualifications. All right. Here's minimum standards button. Let's see if that actually takes us to minimum standards. Let's see if this is it. Child daycare providers. Let's look. It is opening a PDF. Oh, it's got a 2021. Never mind. We're not looking at 2019 if they've got a 2021. Let's look in the 2021 because that seems like that would be more appropriate. Just updates. You know what? I'm going to Google again, y'all, because Google seems to be doing us well on this. I'm going to go Texas Child care minimum standards. I clicked the first thing. Let's see if that'll do it. Yes, it did it. All right. So let me change the view so you all can see the new view. All right. So here's our minimum standards. And we are going to look for the qualifications. Purpose, administration, record keeping. I'm thinking it's under personnel. All right, so it looks like it's page 57. I'm going to try just clicking on this and seeing if that works. I'll be delighted if that works. It did work. All right, so we're looking for qualifications. Director's responsibilities. We need qualifications. Ah, here it is. In licensing, you can see it's on page 60 of licensing. For those of you that are unfamiliar with how PDFs work, just because it says 60 on this page, let me go down and see what page it actually is in here. Oh, it actually is 60. That's lovely.
Yeah, I was getting ready to tell you that it is actually 60. I have.
So sometimes it doesn't quite align. So print out one page, look at it and see if it's what you need before like printing out a bunch of stuff. So it is page 60, page 60, qualifications. And let's see, it seems to go on to page 60, page 61. All right, it goes from page 60 to page 63. I'm going to type that on our paper here. So later on, when you're going to print this stuff out, you will have the page numbers. All right, and the next one, we need qualifications for teachers. And I'm actually going to pop back to the top here because that seemed very efficient. Employees and caregivers. Yes, please. Page 72. Let's see. Oh, page 72, it starts with the qualifications right here for employees. So it's on page 72. Through 74, it looks like. So I'm going to put caregiver qualifications. Page 72 through 74. Great. The next thing we need, look again, is assistants. Assistants and teachers seems to be the same qualifications for licensing in Texas. Now we need to look at group size and adult-child ratios. So I'm going to go back to the top again. So I can see in the table of contents where the group size is. It looks like that's on page, starts on page 97. So I'm going to go to 97. Okay, it says what a ratio is, but not what the ratios are. It gives a definition of what a ratio and a group are. That's not what they want.
It's page 100,
Okay.
I think.
May I place more than one child? How I determine the ratio, blah, blah, blah. I'm looking for a chart. There's usually a chart.
Yeah, I think it's page 100.
Thank you. All right, so this is our ratio and group size. So let's see, this is the ratio. Okay, so let me write that down here for you. Ratio is page 100. All right, now let's find the group chart.
That's page 103.
Okay, thank you. Now, as you're looking through this, you might find some highly interesting things that you can use. But again, that's up to you and your time frame. All right, so Heather is correct. It is page 103. So I'm going to put that down here. 103. You can't just write the page numbers, folks. You're going to have to actually print them out. And now that you know the page numbers, you can ask your director to pull up minimum standards and print those page numbers for you. Or if they have it printed hard copy, you could ask them to make a copy of those pages for you. Do you see how I have them put here? Okay. So we had the name, the contact information, make a copy of the sections that describe qualifications, group size, and ratios. So if you do that printing and like staple it to this page, you'll be done. And I will be posting this in whatever that thing is, Facebook again. All right, let me save it and we'll move on to something else. I know this is fast, but like I said, we're recording it. You will be able to go back and look at it again if you need to. All right, the next thing we have to look at is CS V12. Opening that up. A list of 2 or 3 early childhood associations. They can be national, regional, state, or local. You must have their website address, and you must describe the professional resources they offer and the membership opportunities they offer. Okay? So let's, and again, I'm going to give you what I'm typing here, I'm going to put on Facebook for you. So I'm going to start with 1 in early childhood education. I'm going to put NAEYC because we've already looked at that. And I'm going to spell out what it stands for, National Their website is NAE, I don't need to be so big. Okay, so now for this, I need to put professional. And I need to put membership opportunities. Okay, so this is the first one. You need to do 2 or 3 of these, okay? So I'm now going to go to their website so you can get an example of what professional resources and membership opportunities might look like. I'm going to close minimum standards because it's just one too many tabs. All right, let's share. Go back to Google. naeyc.org. And I've already forgot what I'm looking for. Let me look at it again. I'm looking for professional resources and membership opportunities. All right. So professional resources, they have membership opportunities, articles. I'm uncertain why this is so. Somehow my screen had zoomed in. I was wondering why it was so big and awkward. I'm gonna actually go to membership because I think that might be easier to figure out. Because once you see the membership, it'll tell you what the professional resources are, depending on what level of member you are. All right. So here are your membership opportunities. And these dots tell you if you get it or not. So if you do a entry level, okay? Entry level is just the digital resources. So let's see what you can get for digital resources. You get their articles from Young Children Magazine and Teaching Young Children Magazine. You get membership in the Texas affiliate of NAEYC. So each state has their own group of NAEYC. So Texas has one. Online networking. They have discounts at their store. Okay. So if you were to join for the cheapest level, you get digital access and you get to join the local affiliate. Okay, so I'm going to put that down. It's $30 for the entry. And I think just for funsies, I'm going to put how much it costs for a standard membership too. If you did a standard membership, and these memberships only last for 1 year, if you did that, then you'd get sent one of the magazines, a hard copy, you'd get a complimentary book, and you'd have access to the archive of old articles. And you'd get one online course too. That's cool. And you'd get a discount at their conference. They have yearly conferences. So they have one in Texas for the Texas AEYC, and then they have a national one, which are really cool if you ever get the opportunity to go to those. Sometimes the national one will be in Texas. So I'm also going to put $69 for standard. And I'll do a new share so you can kind of see what I'm doing. And I think on here, now because I put the conference, so I think that would do you for a professional organization. Okay. So that gets your first one done. You need at least one more. Now, if you're interested, I'd like to show you one option that's local, fairly local. It's out of Houston. So let me save this. I will put it on Facebook. So I'm going to have a bunch of, each post on Facebook only takes one file. So you're going to have a lot of files uploaded by me for Facebook today. All right, let me share the screen for Google again. And I can show you a local organization, or almost local. And it's called First 3 Years. I don't know if y'all have heard of it. It's out of Houston, first 3 years. They have okay, so if we go up here, they have a membership. If you are a member, you get more than 40 hours of training through webinars and on-demand online courses. You also get a discount to their spring or fall conference. Their membership costs how much? Let's see. So it like lists out what you get for being a member. Here are the rates. If you are a student, you get a lower rate than if you are not a student. And then like if one's daycare program wanted to do it, it's cheaper if you get it for multiple people. Okay. And if you're not interested in being a member, they still have resources here. It says for professionals. So you can see training events that are happening. You can get on their mailing list or email mailing list for this group, because they have like conferences that come up that are really cool for Baby Day. Have you all ever seen Baby Day stuff? They've done that a few times just for families, and it's all sorts of online trainings. It's really cool, okay? So lots of stuff here. That's one example of another one you could do. All right, the next thing that we're going to talk about is CSVA. All right, so let me pull that up. CSVA. This is your competency statement for the chapter program management. Okay? You need to make sure that you hit all the things it's asking you in this. You're going to start with a general little paragraph about how you meet the standard of program management. So you're going to have an introduction, of how you are using assessment in your classroom. Okay, this could be general. So I'm going to put like ideas include like Lydia's thing that she has where she does beginning, middle, and end of year. And hers is like a checklist. So you could do something like that. I don't want you to list it out. It needs to be like a sentence or two here. So you might do a checklist. You might do, what other assessments do you currently do in your classroom? Observations? What else do you currently do? That might be it. Maybe all you do is observations of child growth. You could say that. You could say something like, right now, for assessment for program management, I only use observations to judge where children are developmentally. If it's the truth, write your truth, okay? You don't have to lie. Write your truth for that. Now this next one, the second paragraph. So first paragraph would be indented, right? For your second paragraph, I'm going to look here. You have to write a paragraph about how you use the observational tool or form that you brought with you today. For those of you that actually brought one, how do you use it? Okay. And that can be one long sentence or maybe two short sentences. So the next part is how I use the observation tool I included.
Tracking each child.
And let me see, what is the number of it? Looking in my yellow book. So I get the correct number. Observation tool. It is RC5. I want you to write like a sentence or two about how you use that observation tool. So for Lydia, she uses it as a checklist and she uses it to decide what lessons to provide for her children. All right, the next question here is why is observation and documentation important? Can anybody give a suggestion of why it would be important? I guess I should pull up chat just in case somebody's putting it in chat. Okay, I've got chat pulled up. Why is observation and documentation important?
It's important so you know where each child is developmentally, so you can keep that open communication, whether it's with the director, other teachers in your room, or parents.
Okay, great. Myra also put to provide better care and to evaluate each child. Great. So you need to write something for this. Okay, you can't leave it out. And the last question it has for you in the second paragraph .
It also helps you as a teacher grow to know that the tools that you are doing to help that child is actually working and not just not.
So if you're doing an assessment and you notice all your kids are not getting their phonological awareness skills or getting their letter sound skills, you know that you need to work on how you teach that, right? Good point. All right, and the last question, it says, how do you ensure that you are being accurate or objective? Remember when we did that Cheerios video? We wanted everybody to be objective and factual instead of giving your opinions. That's what this is asking. How do you make sure you don't give an opinion while you're tracking a child's progress? Okay. Does anybody have a suggestion of what you could write for that? How do you make sure you're not giving opinions?
Always read over what you write and ask yourself, is this what I think, or is this fact? Is this what's actually happening, or is just what I'm interpreting it to be?
Good. So you could look at it and say, is this something the child actually did? Or is this something that, you know, is using words like great or bad, or there's a lot of words in the English language that carry a lot of weight, right? If let's say you saw a little girl giving instructions to other children in the classroom, that happens in your toddler rooms, right? There's usually one little girl that's running things, right? You could describe that little girl as a leader. You could describe that little girl as bossy. Those are both opinions, and they make you think different ways about the child. It would be better if you just said the child is giving instructions to other children. I'm sure everybody here has been called bossy at one point in their life. That's just how we roll as females, right? So just knowing that certain words carry weight and you need to make sure it's describing something instead of using those loaded words. Does anybody have a question on the breakdown for this? It's going to be 2 paragraphs. Here's your first paragraph. Here's your second paragraph. And the second paragraph needs to have these 3 things. Any questions? And I'm going to put this as an example as well on Facebook for you. So you'll see a structure for it. Cool?
Cool.
All right. For those of you that want to do the practice test with me, hang on. If you'd like to hang on and do a practice exam with us, you are welcome to do so. I'm not going to be recording the practice exam because I don't want that information on the internet.